Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest today is Salman Sheikh, author, Freemason, and public speaker, and a man I'm proud to call my brother, a fellow Mason.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you with me, Brother Sal.
Thank you, Brother Steve. It's an honor and a privilege to be back on your platform. I love your show, and I am honored to call you a brother and a friend as well on this journey together.
Thank you, brother. So today we're going to be talking about Freemasonry and the role that it played in the founding of America and the role it's played in America ever since. So you want to get us started by telling us, how did Freemasonry help America to get started? What happened there?
Yes, my brother. So during the time when America was a British colony, the founding fathers had a dream that they could accomplish for their family, to work hard and to achieve what they wanted. And the ideas that the founding fathers had were they were all Freemasons, and they wanted to implement a nation which was based on Masonic values. So, this country, being a Masonic republic, was founded on the ideas of the pursuit of happiness and the American dream. And you can achieve what you want as long as you are willing to work for it. And this became a beacon of light over time. America is the example that anyone can come here and you can work hard, doesn't matter what your race or religion is, and you can achieve what you want to achieve. And it's all based on Masonic values. They saw a system where there was the monarchy, and they didn't want the interference of those that would come and represent the people without their permission. And now we have a system where, and they fought and died for it too. And a lot of people say that they might argue that Freemasons are not supposed to rebel against the country of their residence. But another tenet of Freemasonry is that you are allowed to speak out if you see an injustice taking place in your country against your fellow man, as a venue of Freemasonry is to resist the wicked and to uphold the will of God. So, in that case, resistance against evil is allowed. As Thomas Jefferson said, that I have sworn upon the altar of God to resist any form of tyranny against the mind of man. And the American dream and the American values, myself as a Muslim American, we can all come here, share this home, and have the Masonic values that if Jews, Christians, white, black, Muslim can live on the same street, we can love each other, respect each other, our kids go to school together. Those are all ideas that come from Freemasonry because this is a Masonic republic. And the kids go to school, they have like a global environment, kids from all backgrounds they're going to school with. You only get that here. In a lot of other countries, you might not be able to experience that privilege where you
Yeah.
deal with an international community right away. So that was the vision of the founding fathers, was to instill a republic based on Masonic values where we could love everyone without interference of race or religion, and also the ability to work hard and provide for our families and live the American dream. And yeah, no society is perfect, no human is perfect, no relationship is perfect. And the American Masonic experiment is also a work in progress. So over time, it's just going to get better and better, and we just continue to build upon it. And I tell you, my brother, that we inherit our liberties from those who fought and died for it. We don't enjoy what we have today just because we have it. There were those that had to build the roads and railroads and build the infrastructure, build the buildings, the plumbing, the electricity, where now we have the aspect of cooking in our homes, using the bathrooms. Those are like the small privileges that we overlook sometimes. How did that system come about? It was because of our founding fathers who built this great nation, and we must honor that. And not just America, my brother, even my home country of Pakistan, that was also a Masonic experiment. So all these great countries you see and these leaders where they unified the country and they fought for the people, died for the people, bled for them, majority of them were all Masons. And the main value we see is patriotism, love for yourself, your country, your family, your God, and love for each other, live and let live, and have that same heart and consideration for others. If I'm living with a Muslim family, I know that if I have Christian neighbors, They have the same heartbreaks, trials and errors, successes, love for God, tears, happiness, just like me. We're all human beings. We're all in this together. And in many of the letters that you get from George Washington, he even had a letter he wrote to the Sultan of Morocco, recognizing him as a great friend. And Morocco was the first country in America to recognize America post independence. And he said in Mount Vernon, New York, in one of his letters that it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Mohammedan, Jewish, as long as you come here to do the right thing, work hard, and provide for your family, you have a place in my home. So
Yeah.
that's who the founding fathers were. As you know, a lot of people who give them a bad rap, that America exists and the beacon of light which America became throughout the centuries for other countries to follow, all started from the founding fathers who upholded the ideals of Freemasonry.
You mentioned a Masonic experiment. So, and that's the way they considered America as a Masonic experiment. Can you just say a little bit more about that?
Yes, that's right. So at the time when this place was colonized, because you had the French Indian Wars, then you had the situation of the British. So this was a new land, and everyone was trying to get a piece of the pie. And the founding fathers said everyone deserves to be equal and free. As we say in Freemasonry, that all men are equal under the eyes of Almighty God. And that's the vision that they fought for. And there were many sacrifices they had to make, some good decisions, some other neutral decisions they had to make. But ultimately, it was for the good of all mankind. As you see that there were, as time went on, the beacon of light that America became for people. Many of the people that were suffering in Europe, in Asian countries, in Middle Eastern countries, they took their families and fled to America, the newly established Masonic Republic, which was giving everyone a fair chance at life. And I tell people, I've been to other countries, and I tell them, you don't know how good you have it here. It was because of the sacrifices of the founding fathers and our Masonic ideals of what we stand for. It's built today and has weathered the test of time, and it will continue to do so. And you, right now, maybe you might be going through a bad phase, but just like how you have the black and white Masonic tiles, good days, bad days, good days, ultimately they all shape you to who you're meant to be, because not every day is going to be a good day. If it was a good day all the time, then there's no growth for you. You wouldn't remember God. You wouldn't reflect upon your failures, upon your shortcomings, and know that there might be a husband and wife. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship, but it's two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other. And that's the relationship between America and its citizens. The citizens are not losing hope on America, and America is not losing hope on its people. And over time, I could just right up the street from me, I have a mosque, I have a church, a synagogue, a Sikh temple, all within like a 2 block radius with each other. That's America for you. The Masonic ideals of the USA, which says hope, peace, charity, love, liberty, and justice for all. Everyone has a right to exist and have a chance at life, and have love and empathy for everybody. And I came here when I was 5 to this country, and I remember I used to go to the church on the same day, read the Bible with the Christians. I used to go to the mosque, read the Quran. I used to go to the Sikh temple, and I was always a Mason in my heart ever since a child, because I saw the humanity in everybody. And we fall into these traps of ego and divisiveness and your God and my God. The Creator loves us all equally. We have these different the same mountaintop, but we have different paths to reach the Creator. And it's like what Manly Palmer Hall had said one time, that the true Mason, he finds light at every altar. And that's the example that the founding fathers have built this nation on, was a free and just society. And everyone might have their reasons, but like I said, no place is perfect. But at least here, people still have some form of comfort without any persecution on which type of life that will they choose to live.
Yeah, very well said. How about that Boston Tea Party? That was a bunch of Masons raised in a little ruckus, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the beauty about Freemasons is, it's like I said, we're supposed to be good, cheerful citizens of any country we live in. But at the same time, when there's form of wickedness or tyranny or injustice, you're supposed to speak out against it, because uh, evil will only exist if good men do nothing. And there's a reason why good men exist in Freemasonry, and they come from all walks of life. Most people think that Freemasons are only in America. I was in villages in Pakistan where you could barely get a cell phone signal. They're everywhere because good people who have a good heart and a good value for humanity, they fight for humanity's future. They don't want any praise or recognition. They're the ones who are doing what they need to do. And same thing with the Boston Tea Party. They were rallying the people and they said, enough is enough. We're going to fight for the people's future. And now even those in the countries, other countries, they recognize and praise that those men had courage to put their lives on the line to start something. If no one else was doing it, and if they wouldn't have done it, then America probably wouldn't have existed today. It
Yeah,
all starts with one step, and it all leads to one thing after another.
yeah. They were brave men.
Yeah.
And Paul Revere himself, the
Hmm.
guy that rode a horse around saying the British are coming. He
Yeah,
was a Mason also, wasn't he?
that's right. That's right. And now as time went on, brother Steve, Paul Revere, George Washington, Ben Franklin, all of these heroes, they were not just heroes, but they were also ambassadors. And Thomas Jefferson, who also had a Quran with him, and all of these heroes, they respected and loved all religions because they wanted to base this society on a man's worth, is not his religion or race. And at the time, people can say the circumstance, the racial and different circumstances that were at the time. But like I said, their envision was for the long run. They didn't make America just a short time experiment. They knew what was going to happen eventually. And that's why they did everything the way that it was supposed to happen, because Masons put their faith in God, and God is the ultimate planner. And look at America now. You have diversity in all backgrounds, and you could go to any office, school, any organization. Now you will find that affinity in there of love for all humanity. Yes, there is imperfection, but it's what we're taught. No place is perfect. Mankind and the Masonic Republic, such as America, is an ongoing experiment. We must be better than our forefathers were. So the kids that will come after us, they can build a better society and fix our shortcomings. Then the kids after them can fix their shortcomings, and so on and so on. So it's like a ladder and a chain that we're all trying to build something great for everyone to have a fair and equal chance at life, and to speak out against injustice, and to tell everyone that it doesn't matter what color or religion you are. We're all the same, and we should all love and respect each other. And Freemasonry is a perfect example of what this country was founded on. That if I, as a Muslim man, can stand in a lodge with a Jewish brother, Christian brother, white, black, doesn't matter, and we can call each other brothers without society interfering with us, then why can't the world do the same? And a
Yeah,
lot of these countries were founded on the same values. And this goes way back, 1,000+ years ago. Even with Richard and Saladin during the Crusades, they were brothers. And you had the American Civil War, brothers on opposite sides of the conflict. They saved each other's lives because they knew ultimately they were fighting for a better country and they had a common goal. World Wars, the first and the second ones, brother Masons on opposite sides.
yeah,
So it's just about doing the right thing, no matter what circumstance you're placed in, and
yeah,
following your heart, because all these scriptures, holy scriptures, whatever you read, it will all tell you, it's basically a code of conduct. They're all teaching you to live a good life, be a good moral person, have a good heart, and don't do wrong by anyone. Try to do right by whoever you can.
yeah.
That's Freemasonry, and that's what America was founded on.
That sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? But people seem to have a very hard time living up to that, you know?
That's right, my brother. It's because the unfortunate truth is that a lot of these religious teachings are simple and to the point. What America was founded on is simple and to the point. Everything is simple. It's people that make it complicated because
Yeah,
we're imperfect creatures. You'll have let's say in one religion you'll have like 70 sects because everyone's trying to interpret the faith for their own gain and for their own understanding. They're not trying to unite with other Christians. You have this divide in the Muslim community. They're not trying to get along with each other. You have the Jewish community, Orthodox, and the other people. They're not trying to get along with each other. So the human nature is the same, my brother. Everything is basically telling you to be a good person, believe in God, the golden rules, and all that stuff. But it's people that make it complicated because we're imperfect creatures and we are a work in progress. And we have to smooth our rough ashlers to become smooth ashlers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not everyone might get it, but that doesn't mean that we lose hope in what this country is and what it stands for. We have to live to fight another day.
Yeah. I always say that people cause more trouble than anybody.
Exactly, my brother. Exactly. It tells you in a lot of these holy books that God is one, love everyone, but then you'll have somebody that's ready to condemn somebody else to hell, right? Because they're using their own control and their own gain, and they want to keep people divided.
Yeah.
Because division creates more profits and more wars. Unity brings peace, and it destroys their profits. So
Yeah.
it's like this: if you have the medical system, they want the customer to keep coming back. They're not going to cure him. So same thing with the human foundations of how things are set up. They want keep people to stay divided and not realize our true potential when we come together.
Yeah.
And we live in a society where no one's willing to hear each other out. Everyone's supposedly right, and we just have to do the right thing in our own lives, and hopefully that will shine the light upon them.
Yeah. We'll say more about that in a moment, but let me get back to George Washington for a moment. Our
Yeah,
very first president who was a proud Mason. And he considered that to be a higher honor than being president, if I remember correctly.
that's right. George Washington was a man of impeccable character, and he said the only thing that the highest honor that I have earned in my life, brother Steve, is the character of a good and honest man. Because a Freemason is a honest man. He's a man of his word. He will honor his family, neighbors, friends. Before he does anything for himself, he will put others before himself. That's a selfless individual. And you would hear stories about Washington and some of the winners and the battles that they had where the men would be freezing to death, but George Washington would never leave their side with diarrhea running down their pants. They were such in bad condition with no food, but he refused to give up on them because he knew the Masonic values and the ideals that he had promised before God, that I will, whatever intention that I made to create this republic, I will fight to the very end, to my last breath if I have to see this job through.
Yeah,
That's the kind of man that George Washington was.
yeah, he was a great leader.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
not only was George Washington a Mason, but 14 of our past presidents have been Masons.
Yeah, that's correct.
I
That's
can't
correct.
name them, but there's 14 of them.
Yeah, I think who comes to my mind? I think Truman was a Mason.
Truman, Theodore Roosevelt, and
Roosevelt was a Mason.
Franklin Roosevelt, and
Yes, that's right.
there's a bunch of them.
And the Declaration of Independence too. A majority of the signers were Masons.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there's also been a lot of senators and congressmen over the years and even now that are Masons.
Yeah,
Um, Colin Powell, for example, he was a Freemason, or
yeah, that's
still
right.
is. He's still alive, so he still is.
That's
Um,
right.
I got a list here of some famous American Masons. Here, it's not a complete list, of course, but just to name a few. John Wayne, we all remember John Wayne.
Yeah.
George Washington, James Madison,
Mm-hmm.
James Monroe Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Richard Pryor,
Yeah.
Clark Gable, Don Rickles, Jesse Jackson, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Houdini, the great magician,
Yeah.
Ernest Borgnine, Gerald Ford, former president, Count Basie, Thurgood Marshall, and there's been many, many others. We come from a very long tradition of good men.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely correct. Good men who wanted to do the right thing for their self, for their countries, for their families, and those who, regardless of the price that they had to pay, would put their situation on the line for the greater good. And that's who Freemasons are. Even if you go to other countries, you look at Garibaldi in Italy. He had united Italy when Italy was being divided and destroyed.
Yeah,
You go to Pakistan. Pakistan was some of their leaders that founded that country were Masons because they wanted to create a secular society at the time when the British were leaving India and they wanted to create a separate country out of India. So non-Hindus could have like a secular society to live in. And you have these other societies that exist where people died, they fought, they bled. In Japan, you had some samurais that were Masons, and they had to make sure that they were fighting for the righteous cause and for the survival of their country. So any common pattern that you've seen of these great heroes and legends, even some of them who never declared their membership, because they were very honorable about that. They just wanted to be in silence and let their actions demonstrate who they were.
Yeah.
And throughout history, not even in America, but every country in the world, you see those heroes, those silent heroes that exist without recognition, that united people, that fought for people, that helped people. 9 out of 10, they were Masons, from like my understanding and my research into it.
Yeah. Now tell us about the Masonic symbolism on the back of our dollar bill.
Yeah, so the Masonic symbolism on the back of the dollar bill, where you have the concept of the pyramid and the capstone. So it's like this: the pyramid is unfinished. Why? Because America is still a work in progress, and it was imperfect then. It's still imperfect because the Mason is an imperfect creature. He continues to smooth out his ashlar until he becomes perfect, and in union with the grand architect of the universe, Almighty God. So basically, the pyramid, you're going up the mountaintop, and once you get to the mountaintop, that's when you find enlightenment, and that's the eye of providence and the eye of God. Muslims might call it eye of Allah. Everyone has their own interpretation of it, but that's the light of God. So it's telling you that no matter what path you take up that mountain, it's all leading to the same light. And how a lot of people have said, I've been to the mountaintop. So that means that basically you found the true light, which was seeing all humanity as one. And even in Islam, we have the concept of the 99 names of Allah. And one name is Al-Ahad, which tells you that everyone is one. The stars, the skies, the moon, the sun, human beings, animals, minerals, plants, the galaxies, everything exists with that one source. So you have the point within the circle, and inside the point is Almighty God, and everything around that circle is connected to that one source of life. And if that one source is not there, then nothing else exists. So with that realization, if I know that we're all part of that one source, then how can I have any hate in my heart for anybody? And that's what Freemasonry teaches you, is that love for everybody. That's what the back of the dollar bill is telling you to, for those who have the eyes to see it. And the Novus Order Seclorum, many people have that New World Order conspiracy stuff, but it's basically telling you new order for the ages. Because at that time, they wanted to create a society where all races and religions would be welcomed. That's what that meant. It's not nothing evil against humanity or plotting anything against humanity. And the eagle on the right hand side, the eagle represents the highest noble animal, which you see in Native American cultures and different cultures throughout the world. The eagle is the one who's the most high, connected with God. He sees everything, perceives everything. And in one hand of the eagle, you'll have the arrows, and the other hand is the olive branch. And it's telling you, just like the black and white Masonic tiles, that you must have the balance of peace and war within yourself. It's ultimately telling you to be that balanced person, balance the negative and positive, feminine, masculine aspects of yourself, and be a better person. And know that you must, in times of peace, you must prepare for war, and in times of war, you must pray for peace and prepare for peace. That's basically the life of a good man, a perfect man. Nothing conspiracy or nothing plotting against humanity where people have this idea. Because, people like this conspiracy stuff because it sounds good. They get excited to find something out, but ultimately everything is fine. We're all living here. Everyone's fine. We're getting along. Yeah, some of us are struggling, but who isn't? Everyone, even the people who are rich, Brother Steve, some of them internally don't have peace. They're struggling in their own way. So
Yeah.
it's not about you having money or not. It's about find that peace within yourself. And that's what the eagle is teaching you also.
Yeah. Uh, Masonry has a big influence on modern politics also. We mentioned there's a lot of people in Congress and Senate who are Masons. So
Mm-hmm.
We are still trying to help America to be strong and loving. And, we talk about the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. And that
Yeah.
sounds good and it's a noble purpose, but sometimes we fall far short. Sometimes we just
Yeah.
don't quite measure up. Uh, I found a website that's got, and this was from 2015, but the website is called smartearningmethods.com. So in
Mm-hmm.
2015, they had the list of the 10 most powerful Masons in the world. And here they are in no particular order: Jesse Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
John Glenn, who of course was an astronaut, David Patterson, the former governor of New York, George Ryan, 39th governor of Illinois, Bob Hawke, who was 23rd prime minister of Australia, Al Gore, who was, of course, vice president, Colin Powell, four-star general, and I think he was secretary of state. He was a cabinet member. And he's also, I think, a 33rd degree Scottish Mason,
Yeah.
Scottish Rite, if I'm not mistaken. Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Bob Dole, former senator, and I'm probably going to say this last name wrong, Mohammed Ahmadinejad, former leader of Iran. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Okay. But that was the 10 most powerful Masons in 2015, according to this website. So I just
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
That's right. It just goes to show you that this brotherhood is universal, and some Masons might be opposite sides of the conflict, but it's all one brotherhood because they're all promoting the wellness of their people in their own ways. So that's one people that some cannot comprehend that when you say, oh, they were on both sides of the Civil War or both world wars or Saladin and Richard, because they don't know that this brotherhood has existed since mankind has existed. It goes way back, and it's all these traditions of aspects of self improvement and just the aspect of leaving a better world behind than what you found it in. And like you said, there are those that fall short. There might be some institutions that might not recognize other racial institutions, but that's the thing. Over time, as time goes on, it's a work in progress, and within my lifetime, I hope to see all those errors corrected as we continue working towards being the perfect man and the perfect society.
Yeah.
It will take some time.
Now, your experience may be different from mine, but here in East Tennessee, 99.9% of Masons are Republicans.
Hmm.
Is that true up in your part of the country?
Well, it depends. It depends because everyone has like their own, I guess, viewpoints on how they view certain subjects. Now, as a disclaimer to whoever's watching this, that we do not represent any Grand Lodge statement or opinion. We're
Right.
just talking as free men and as friends.
Right.
And what we're talking about is I've seen some aspects of the imperfect man where some of them might post something against somebody's race or religion. And I tell them, you have to be a better example than that. You have to give them good counsel and tell them that if you are just like the normal people out there, like the profane world, they will look upon you and say, there's no difference between the public that's fighting with each other and the Masons. Aren't they supposed to set a better example? That you know better. Why would you post something or get into arguments that would be cause divisiveness with your fellow man? And that's what the lodge teaches us, is to put all that behind, leave the world outside, and in here you are all brothers, nothing more, nothing less. And that's
Yeah.
the example we should continue to demonstrate outside of it. I tell people, your majority of the time, you being a Mason is outside of the lodge with your family, at your job, in your community, in your
Yeah.
home, your day-to-day responsibilities, and you should represent yourself to the highest impeccable character of a good man, and not be tempted to post anything on Facebook which might cause a fight, or know it might hurt some other brother's feelings who might affiliate with that. Some things it's better for them to keep to themselves. And any Mason that's still, let's say, struggling with the concept of accepting another brother of another race or religion, still has to look the Eastern values of where Freemasonry came from, and sit down and take a good hard look at themselves. Who am I? What am I standing for? What does this square and compass represent? And what values am I upholding when I wear this square and compass on my hat, on my
Yeah.
car, on my shirt, on my ring? You're representing not just yourself, but a global fraternity which has existed even before its known record for thousands of years. So you must be the better example. And I've guided many brothers in different parts of this country to tell them to be the better example, do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you have children in your house growing up, Brother Steve, whatever they see the parents doing, that's what they're going to end up doing.
Yeah.
That's because you're teaching them how to act. And if Freemasons were the forefathers of this country and these new generation that's growing up, what are you doing to offer them a better understanding of what this place is, rather than the
Yeah.
division and the destruction we're seeing by the agents of chaos, who also exist in all races, religions, and countries? That fight between good and evil is everywhere, not just in America. You cannot escape human nature. So we must be the better example, no matter wherever God has placed us, to do what we need to do.
Yeah. You mentioned the agents of chaos, and I've heard you use that term before. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So the agents of chaos are those that exist in all races, religions, groups, and countries in the world. And their job is to see the division and destruction of the human family. Because you have one side, which is the side of light, who wants to see God, happiness, unity, love, and all that good stuff. The second one, it's like that, dark and white, white and black, both cannot exist without each other. Batman cannot exist without the Joker. Joker cannot exist without him. It's that order out of chaos where sometimes we have to fall down in order to get back up stronger. And that's true in all of our spiritual journeys as well. But it's that concept of America is a perfect example of that, where you'll have one term where it'll be 4 years of chaos, then it'll be 4 years of order, 4 years of chaos. So that's that balance that they create. It's inevitable. It's in my country as well, not just here, because it's that struggle between light and dark that's happening throughout the ages and throughout the world and throughout the ages. Names
Yeah.
change. They might hide behind different religions, ideologies, countries, but that struggle between those two groups has always existed to fight over mankind's influence and future.
Yeah.
So, how we can counteract peacefully, respectfully, and legally against the agents of chaos is tell people to do the right thing. If I know that, okay, let's say it says in the Bible to not hurt children, right? And I see a priest who did something horrible to a child. Just based on that actions of that one priest, I'm not gonna destroy or categorize Christianity as a whole, because I read the Bible. I know it doesn't say that in there. That's that individual person who was
Yeah.
operating out of darkness, and that's what I tell other people, that good and bad people can be found everywhere. I know people who go to church every Sunday, or those that pray 5 times a day. Some of them are not good people. Some of their jobs and businesses, they're cheating people, they're hurting people, they're doing all of these despicable things,
Yeah.
and they hide behind God. And then you have those that are also good people. So it's everywhere, my brother. It's not just fraternities, but every walk of life, you'll have that struggle, that internal struggle between man, between light and dark. We
Yeah.
must always be the better example. Sometimes we can lose hope that what am I doing any of this for? But it's like, if we don't do it, who will? It's like
Yeah.
George Washington, who was starving to death, crossing the Delaware River with his men with diarrhea running down his pants. He could have easily turned back and went back to Mount Vernon, New York, and raised the white flag. But who would have taken his place? Who would have taken our place if we just sit back and hide in our corner?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I've said on a lot of my videos on YouTube at the end of them, a lot of times I'll say, choose the good and not the evil.
Yeah,
So, and I
exactly.
sometimes we just have to make that decision, you
That's
know?
right, my brother. We have to be the better example. We
Yeah.
have to do the right thing. Uh, Most people get lost. Oh, this person's gonna think this about me. This person's gonna do this. It's fine. People will still hate you even if you're doing good things.
Yeah.
You have to follow your moral compass. It's like one of my great friends and brothers. He says that let the square and compass guide your heart and your actions. What you believe to be the right thing, if all these scriptures are telling you that God is in your heart, then listen to your heart when making decisions
Yeah.
pertaining to yourself, your loved ones, your family, how to handle certain scenarios, when to be patient or not emotionally react, act logically, act rationally, and to know how many people will be affected by my decision, or if is there something that I could have said better, did better, thought better. Every day is an aspect of self-improvement for the Mason, and it's
Yeah.
for this nation as well, which was founded on Masonic values. Now you go 100 years ago and 100 years now, you have all racial and religious communities that are flourishing in their own way. Everyone has a chance at life. Everyone's eating dinner at home with their families peacefully. So everyone is okay. There is some struggle that's still yet to be had, but it's still, we have to keep pressing on. Maybe next 100 years, more changes will come.
Yeah. Another thing that a lot of folks don't know about the Masons, we do a lot of charity work. We spend
Yeah.
a lot of money, donate a lot of money, raise a lot of money for charities. Uh, and some people don't understand when you see the Shriners out taking money for the the children, those are Masons. Some people
That's
don't
exactly
realize
right.
that.
That's
And
exactly right. A great story I have for you, Brother Steve, about the Shriners is that a good friend of mine and a Masonic brother, he was in Iraq serving with the U.S. Marines, and as a translator, him and his family were targeted. So I want to keep his name anonymous, and his leg was blown off, and he was under 18 at the time while he was helping the Marines out, and his leg got blown off. So it was the Shriners Hospital who sponsored him and his mother to come to America to escape war and persecution for a better life. They rehabilitated him, gave him his new leg, and eventually he joined the Masons and the Shriners. He's serving them, and his life turned out for the better. He's living the good American dream in a good home, has a job, has rehabilitated himself where he's self-sufficient, is helping his mother out. So, but and the Masons didn't post that all over to try to get the fanfare.
yeah,
There's a lot of silent humanity that goes on behind the scenes where people won't tell you that they're behind the scenes. They might be taking care of poor families or they're
yeah,
helping somebody. They're not going to tell you that because that's between them and God.
yeah. Most of the heroes in the world are people that are never known by the general population.
Yeah.
Most
And the
heroes are
interesting
silent.
fact is that a lot of them were Freemasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Sometimes the Freemasons have gotten into trouble. As far as by trouble, I mean with the common perception. And I'm sure you're familiar with the story of William Morgan.
Yeah, yeah.
In the 19th century, he was a Mason at one time, and then later on, he got mad at the Masons and said he was going to publish a book to expose all the Masonic secrets.
Mm,
And then I think he was arrested and on some bogus charges or something, and that was blamed on the Masons. And anyway, he mysteriously disappeared after that, and a lot of folks tried to blame that on the Masons and said that he was kidnapped and killed by the Masons. And of course, there's no proof of that. As
well,
you,
that's all misinformation, my
yeah,
brother. It's like this tradition of people blaming the Masons goes all the way back to the Knights Templar,
yeah,
where the Knights Templar, most people don't realize it, but they were defender of not just Christianity but all faiths. They wanted to protect all races and religions, and when they had went back to Europe, a lot of the church institutions at the time saw them as a threat. Like they're preaching unity and they're trying to help everybody. We can't have that. So they labeled them as the enemy, that they're worshiping this goat-headed god or they're doing this, and they persecuted them. And ultimately, we have the Leo Tex Hill hoax where they're saying we do all this despicable stuff.
yeah,
Same thing with the William Morgan affair, that the Masons are behind everything.
yeah,
That's all untrue. It's like I
yeah,
said, you have those that are the agents of chaos that will try to defame you and blemish your character, but it's ultimately Almighty God, whom the Mason puts his trust in, that vindicates your character. Now, look at it this way: the people that framed the Knights Templar, Leo Texel agenda, the William Morgan affair, those people don't exist today, but the Freemasons still exist today.
Yeah,
So, who did God favor?
yeah. Yeah, and shortly after the William Morgan affair, some of the politicians were so anti-Masonic that they started a political party called the Anti-Masonic Party. I suppose you're familiar with that. This
Yeah,
happened
that's right.
not long after the William Morgan affair. And so they ran on that platform that they were going to get rid of all the Masons. And they didn't last, I don't know, a couple of years maybe. And I think most of them turned into the Whig Party or something like that. But,
That's
yeah,
right, my brother. And look, they don't exist today, but the Freemasons exist today, just like any other, all of their predecessors who had tried to destroy the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God.
yeah,
So God is the ultimate vindicator and the best of all planners.
yeah. Yeah, it's always been people saying that we either control the world or we're trying to take over the world. And I keep waiting
Yeah.
for my portion, I don't know when I'm going to get my country. uh,
Exactly, brother Steve. Majority of the Masons I know, some of them are even financially struggling, but they would never tell you that. They will never put their hand out. They will work hard to the bone if they have to make an honest living to provide for them and their family.
yeah,
Most people say that Masons are rich or you become rich and famous and all that stuff. That's all misinformation. You
exactly.
have other groups of darkness that might do that stuff,
Yeah,
but Freemasons are men of light, men of goodness. We
man of
work hard for
integrity.
what we have.
Yeah. I read somewhere, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's probably close that there's currently approximately 200 members of Congress that are Masons. Now, again, I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. That sounds like
Yeah.
something that could be true. Uh, well, let's change gears, brother, and talk about your religion, Islam. Uh, as you know, you folks get a lot of bad publicity in America, which I don't think it all began at 9/11, but that certainly did ignite things. So, what's it like being a Muslim in America?
Well, honestly, ever since I've been in this country, I came to this country, brother Steve, when I was 5 years old in Cleveland, Ohio. And I came, I didn't speak a word of English, and it was Midwest, all American town. People were kind to me. They didn't say, "Oh, you're from Pakistan or you're Muslim. We don't welcome you in our hometown or in our schools." People were very kind. I used to go to the Dairy Queen, and the Dairy Queens over there at that time, I don't know if it has changed. They would have a fast food restaurant, and they would have an ice cream parlor at the same time.
Yeah,
So
we
I would
still
go
got
there,
those.
and the yeah, that's right. And the women would serve me food. They wouldn't ask me for anything. They even provided me a teacher who spoke my language to help me get started into the school system. And I went to Delaware. I had a good experience. Then after that, I came to Pennsylvania, which I have been here ever since throughout my life. And I never had any issues with my brother. It was
Good.
yeah, you have good people and bad people. That's even the same if I go to my home country. You'll have those that will be good to me, and then there will be those that will want to antagonize me.
Yeah,
That's something that you cannot blame on this country alone. And
yeah,
I'm glad that even after 9/11, it took some time because obviously the agents of chaos wanted to create that division between Islam and America. But
yeah,
it's like that example I gave of the priest. If he did anything bad, that doesn't mean that Christianity teaches that.
yeah,
And same thing with whoever did 9/11. They should be condemned. Islam doesn't tell you to hurt innocent people. It tells you to love and respect all people of the book, Jews and Christians. And it says that in Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 262, that it doesn't matter if you believe in Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. As long as you believe in God and do the right thing, on the day of judgment, you shall have no grief because you put your faith in the Lord. And that's what it's about. Anyone who goes against that, even in the Islamic communities, people who do that, they are the agents of chaos.
Yeah.
because they don't want humanity to come together, because we're more stronger when we come together. And it's about derailing the agendas of people on both sides, no matter what affinity or identity that they're hiding behind, to tell them that you are not representing that culture or faith correctly. We know what it's about, and we must be the better examples. And we must end these cycles of hatred and ignorance for what
Yeah.
it has done for us.
Amen to that. Yeah, Christians, Jews, and Muslims all go back to the same Abrahamic root. Abraham is our spiritual father.
That's right.
We all come from Father Abraham. So
That's right. That's
that's a
right.
good thing for us to remember.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, how many Muslims approximately are in America now?
I believe I could be mistaken on this, but I believe it's maybe a little over 1 million,
Okay.
possibly more, because it's all scattered throughout the 50 states. So I
Yeah.
could be mistaken on that, but I know many Muslim families that are in New York, in New Jersey, in other parts of America. They're working hard. They're doctors, lawyers. They live in good homes, good neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's the example of America. It must be some reason that they left their home country to come here and bring their families here for a better life.
Yeah.
And I tell my father every day, I thank you for bringing me here when I was 5 years old, so I could experience the life that God had intended to me, to see reality, see this international community that lives in this country, and ultimately the path that led me to my spiritual path, Freemasonry, and whatever God had planned for me at that time. He's the best of all planners, and we always trust him through the good and bad times. And most people don't realize the greatness of this place and what struggles and sacrifices, and how this was a plan to make this country, not in 1776, but a plan to create a nation like this had existed hundreds of years before that. But it came to fruition in 1776. So people don't realize that America has been an experiment for 1,000+ years. They don't know how back it really goes to make a country like this.
Yeah. Can you name some famous American Muslims?
Famous American Muslims, you have Muhammad Ali, you have Malcolm X. And Malcolm X also, see, he realized too, when he was here, he realized that some of the groups here are telling me to, hate white people or hate each other. They're causing division. And when he went to Mecca, he saw there were white Muslims, black Muslims, and he saw the aspect of unity. And then when he came back and started preaching unity, that's when the agents of chaos started seeing him as a threat, that, oh, now you no longer serve our purpose. Now you need to go. So it's about unity and doing the right thing. So you have Malcolm X, you have Mike Tyson, you have Muhammad Ali, you have a lot of like great generals. There was a general too that existed, John Abedin. He's a famous American Muslim. You also have a lot of these other famous American Muslims. Imam Omar Soleiman is there. You have some that are representing in government right now. So the athletes are like the only ones that I know top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Now, say you're from Pakistan. How is Islam practiced differently in Pakistan than it is in America?
Well, see over there, just like you have the imperfection of the human character, my brother. Over there, even though they're all the same race and religion, but still you'll find division there, because everyone's interpreting Islam in their own way. They're interpreting how to follow certain things their own way. Some people might be more conservative, some might be more liberal. And I tell people that anything that you see from that part of the world or anywhere around there, which goes against what Islam teaches, just know that it's not an Islamic crime. It's a cultural crime, because those places acted like that way before Islam even came to those lands, when they
Yeah.
were like practicing other faiths before the expansion of Islam. So those are cultural crimes. Islam doesn't tell you to do any of that stuff. It tells you to respect your women. Women have the right to choose their husbands and to be honorable members of the household and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of misinterpretation because of lack of ignorance and lack of education.
Yeah.
But there are also good areas, people who follow the religion correctly, and do the right thing and are good moral human beings. You'll have the bad ones. You'll have those in the middle. Same thing here. You'll have those that are morally good people. They'll be in the middle. They'll be on different aspects of the aisle. And that's what I tell people. Human nature, you can go anywhere in the world you want. The imperfection of the human character, you will always see a reflection of it upon its society.
Yeah.
That's why we're a work in progress no matter where we go. And I tell people that if you're a Christian, represent the best values of Christianity and be the best Christian that people can look upon as an example. If you're a Jew, be the best Jew that people can look upon you as a friend and someone of a high moral character. If you're a Muslim, read actually what the Quran is telling you, the surahs that tell you to respect Christians and Jews and respect women and respect the mother of Christ, Mary, peace be upon her. There's a whole chapter we have in the Quran dedicated to Mother Mary and dedicated to women. So read your own faith and be about it. Don't let these clerics and these people come and tell you and control your minds like we have some leaders and people here with an agenda, the agents of chaos that like to divide and destroy people. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't want people to come together. They're not going to tell you the truth. So
Yeah.
we need to do our own research and be our own examples of light to our communities.
Yeah. Now, do you get a chance to go to Pakistan often?
Yeah, that's right. I had went pre-COVID back in 2019, and I had a pleasant experience, brother Steve. They had Pizza Huts, McDonald's. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
yeah, very well modernized. They're getting with the program. I saw a lot of like women who were doing jobs in positions of power. So right now, Pakistan is under a progressive prime minister and progressive leadership. Someone who has spent his time, like majority of his time in England. So Pakistan right now is under progressive leadership, and they're turning things around. Where you go to different cities, you will see a reflection of America and American values, because see, every country wants to reflect America in their own countries. So if people want to say, Masonic values are not good, this is a country founded on Masonic values, which every country is trying to emulate in their own nations.
Yeah.
So Pakistan right now being under a progressive leadership is also a work in progress. They're getting there step by step, year by year. Things will get better for them eventually. Here it's the same thing with the aspects of division between races and all that stuff. This country is also a work in progress. It's getting better step by step. And both Pakistan and America are both Masonic experiments at the time when it had occurred. So everything has its due time, my brother.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see it within our lifetimes, or maybe our descendants will see it. But as Masons, with the short time that God has given us, we need to do the right thing while we're still here.
Yeah. Now, what do most Pakistanis think of Americans?
They like it. There are those that are educated, that understand that they're trying to find their way to America. They want to get a visa to come to America, find a better life for them and their families. Or then there are those that have been targeted by the agents of chaos to hate America. So you have that good and bad, my brother, everywhere. Here's the same thing. You'll have those that actually took the time to study Islam and see that Islam doesn't teach any of this stuff or hatred against other people. Then there are those who have been watching the news since 9/11 that tell you to fear Muslims. So those reflections and polarities of society, they exist everywhere. Good and bad exist everywhere.
Yeah. Now, Muhammad spoke of people, Christians, Jewish people, and Islam all as people of the book, correct? And so he was not a hater of Christians or Jews.
Yeah. I mean, that's all misinformation, brother Steve,
Yeah.
because that's what the agents of chaos do.
Yeah.
What Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 262, like it doesn't get clearer than that. That it tells you that it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. As long as you believe in God, do the right thing, God will do right by you on the day of judgment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell you to hate Christians or Jews. It was, it's funny that even at that time, when the Prophet Muhammad had established the Charter of Medina and the covenant of the with the Christians of Mount Sinai, it was to protect that bond between Christians, Muslims, and Jews, because we see ourselves as a continuation of all of those communities. Besides Christianity, Islam is the only faith that believes in Christ and his second coming. We
Yeah.
might have a different interpretation, but the majority of the factor is still there.
Yeah.
And when the Prophet Muhammad was being persecuted, it was Ethiopian Christians who gave him refuge in Ethiopia. So, and his wife, first wife, Khadija, her cousin was a biblical scholar. So that, ties there with each other. If you go to the US Supreme Court, they have a statue of the Prophet Muhammad outside of it as
Oh,
one of the
really?
greatest lawgivers.
I
Most people,
didn't know
yeah,
that.
most people do not know that.
Yeah.
And even in there's a state in America that has an Islam Day, which is a state mandated holiday every year. So
Really?
you tell me, brother Steve, which state was that?
I'm sure it's not Tennessee. I
Take a
know.
guess.
Probably Washington, maybe one of the northern states.
Hawaii.
Really? Okay.
Hawaii, because 200 years before America was founded, Hawaii was known as the Kingdom of Hawaii, which was controlled by Moors, like Muslim Moors.
Yeah.
And if you look at their old banner, you'll see these two dark-skinned gentlemen holding the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii, wearing the red Shriner's fez. And their last king of Hawaii, King Kamehameha, was also a Mason, a Shriner, part of the Islam Shriners. So, that aspect of Islam, Freemasonry, Christianity, it's all intertwined with each other. Same thing with Saladin and Richard. Saladin allowed the Christian pilgrims safe passage in and out of Jerusalem because he was protecting the covenant of the Prophet Muhammad, which told you to protect Christians as if they were your own blood. And that's what I tell people. Anywhere where war exists, who's supplying those people? Who's funding it? What's the agenda behind it? Didn't they take the time to read the covenant of the Prophet Muhammad, which tells you to respect Jews and Christians? Didn't these other people from the Christian side take the time to read what the love of Christ has taught us to not kill and to love all humanity? Who's benefiting from this destruction? Those are the people that we need to stop.
Yeah.
Everyone else, all of these faiths are telling you to love and respect each other. Why so much misery where people from both sides are paying the price? We
Yeah.
need to be the better example and know that we need to leave a better world behind for our children.
Yeah. There's a word that's we've been taught in America to hate and fear. That's the word jihad. Tell
Yeah.
us what that really means. It's not what we've been told it means.
Jihad is basically, my brother, the Prophet Muhammad has said that the greatest jihad that you can do is against yourself, against your lower self, against your ego, against any desire, any lust, any greed, gluttony. So jihad is against yourself. It's like how the Mason does jihad against himself to get his to his rough ashlar to a smooth ashlar. It's all intertwined with each other. It's
So it's
all
like a
intertwined.
struggle.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's a struggle against yourself. And when they tell you, jihad and Muhammad and all this stuff, they're just trying to create fear because they want you to fear your Muslim neighbor.
Yeah.
And your Muslim neighbor is just trying to work hard and put food on the table just like you are. He's not different from you. It's the people at the top who want to see you two fighting with each other so you don't unite and put your focus on them, the people in power.
Yeah.
That's what they do. It's like if I have these two bowls and one is the red ants and the other are the other ants, and I shake them up, I throw them on the floor, they're going to start fighting with each other as soon as they look at each other. But they don't know who's the one that shook up the bowl and threw them on the floor. They don't know that. Same thing with the Kaaba. You go to the Kaaba, you have people of all races that are walking around with the cloth of white purity, same equivalent to the innocence of the lambskin of a master mason, the apron that he wears. That's what changed Malcolm X's heart. He said, they were telling me to hate white people here. When I went to Mecca, I saw white Muslims and black Muslims and Arabs all loving and respecting each other.
Yeah.
And in the Kaaba, which represents the perfect ashlar stone, the Masonic term, inside of the Kaaba, you have the pillars and the altar. And in the Holy Quran, God says that to Abraham, I have given you the tools to make the house of God. And basically the tools, we have those tools. And that's what jihad is, to make yourself better. Focus on your imperfections. Was there something that I could have done better, said better, did better? Could I have carried myself in a better way? That's jihad, to be better. But ultimately, You have the news networks, which is fear-based mind control, where today they're telling you to fear Chinese people. Yesterday they were telling you to fear Black people. Yesterday they were telling you to fear Muslim people. Who's behind it all? And if you look at the movie They Live from Roddy Piper, the wrestler, rest in peace,
I think I saw that. That's an oldie.
he would find these sunglasses and he would wear them and he would see that a lot of these people's walking around were not human and they were
Yeah.
controlling humanity through fear. And how did he stop their control? He went to the local news station and he turned their antenna off. And people like broke out of their trance. And I tell people, turn the TV off, go outside and see reality with your own eyes. I could go outside. The news is telling me that whites and blacks and Muslims and Asians should all fear each other. I go outside, I see those same people of the same backgrounds living on the same street. Their kids playing together, going to school together, going to the ball games together, and it's
Yeah.
fine. The world keeps moving. We have to know what to feed our energy into and what not to feed our energy into. And
Yeah.
ultimately, those agents of chaos, like the parasites that they are, when you're not feeding them your thoughts and energy, they will die and go away.
Yeah. So tell us about the different branches of Islam. I believe is there two or three? I mean, I'm
Islam,
sure there's a lot more, but the main ones are what, about three main ones? Two or three?
it's basically two. You have the Sunnis and the Shias. So the Sunnis and the Shias, it depends on their interpretation, but ultimately, you look at the Quran, it doesn't tell you to have any sect. It just tells you to believe in God and do the right thing. But see, we get back to the conversation of human nature. Humanity is the imperfection, and that imperfect creature that always wants to interpret and control things their own way. Now we have the Sufis and Sufism, which is the concept of the Islam that the Prophet Muhammad had taught to some of his inner initiates, the people of the bench. Same thing, we find that same example in the Holy Bible in Mark 4:11, where Christ says that some of you will get the inner mysteries and some of you outside of it will be taught but in parables. Those were initiates of the mystery schools.
Yeah.
That's where you'll find the real teachings of each faith is through the inner mysteries, such as what Mark 4:11 teaches you, what the Prophet Muhammad taught to the Sufis, who became people of the bench in Sufism, with Moses, who himself was an initiate of the Egyptian mystery schools, and he had an inner circle whom he taught some of the sacred knowledge of God to. So that, you see that Masonic connection has always been there of those that do get it and those that stay in ignorance and continue
Yeah.
fighting with each other about your God and my God and your hell and my hell, while they're all teaching the same exact thing on how to live a good, clean life.
Yeah, I hate to hear people say, well, Christians serve God and Muslims serve Allah. And I tell them Allah is the Arabic word for God, right?
That's right. I have Christian Arabic friends, and if you
Yeah.
open the Holy Bible, and if you like the Coptic Christians, some of them I know, and you open their Bible, the word for God is Allah. So Allah is not a different deity.
Right.
It's just if you translate the word God from English to Arabic, it's Allah.
Yeah.
So it's like if you say, thank you in Spanish. If you translate it to Spanish, it's gracias. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it's a different meaning altogether. It's the same exact meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is it true that most Muslims in the United States are African American?
Yes, because the concept of the first Islamic movement in America was started in 1916 with Noble Drew Ali with the Moorish Science Temple of America. And you will find this history entertaining that the person who taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali to get him started on the path that he was supposed to get on were two Muslim Masons, Jamal al-Afghani, who was also referred to as the old man of the mountain, and one of his disciples, Muhammad Abdu. And Jamal al-Afghani had also taught Madame Blavatsky, who was the founder of the Theosophy movement.
Yeah.
If he was studying under him, they referred to him as Serapis Bey because they had this like Brotherhood of Light, of Luxor, and they were trying to gain immortality of the soul and all that stuff. So ultimately, Jamal al-Afghani's journey brought him to America in the winter of 1882 or 83, and he taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali. And because he knew what that kid was going to end up becoming, he had a foresight of the future,
Yeah.
and he planted that seed. And ultimately, it was Noble Drew Ali who had established the first Islamic presence. But like I said, the Islamic connection goes all the way back to George Washington with his letter to the Sultan of Morocco, and Morocco recognizing the first nation to recognize America, the statue of Prophet Muhammad at the Supreme Court, Thomas Jefferson's Quran. You go to Hawaii, you have Islam Day, and most people will never know that in their whole lives. And why? Because of the Islamic history that surrounds that land. So there's so much history that's being hidden from us because, again, some of those that have written your history books are agents of chaos. They don't want you to come together.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah. Now, how does the Nation of Islam that Louis Farrakhan heads and teaches from, how does that differ from your
See, with the Nation of
Islam?
Islam, with our traditional Muslims,
Yeah.
we view them as a forbidden sect because Nation of Islam, that's what Malcolm X was a part of. And, there was hatred and division being preached. And I speak for myself. And I say that that's not what Islam is. Islam is love and acceptance of all people. It's like it says in the Holy Quran. It doesn't matter if you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. You do right by God, you will have no fear on the day of judgment. It says that right there in Surah 2, verse 262. Malcolm X, he was a part of the nation. He went to Mecca in the East, and he saw the true Islam for his own self. Now, if you come back to the leader of Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, his son, W.D. Fard Muhammad, he was the one who carried the Nation of Islam into a Sunni tradition, like the tradition which accepts everybody. They were accepting white members, black members, you name it, because he knew his father's vision of Elijah Muhammad's vision. And his son was his true and rightful descendant. And if you look up W.D. Fard Muhammad, you see him meeting with world leaders, accepting white members, all members into their circles. Then ultimately something must have went wrong, because then you have the agents of chaos that must have came in, be like, yeah, we want this group to remain elusively to further our cause. Then Elijah Muhammad's the rightful, heir and descendant, trying to reunite everybody.
Yeah.
So ultimately, W.D. Fard Muhammad, they parted ways, or they have their own history. And now you have this concept of, maintaining that division, and that concept of us and them. And I tell you, my brother, that anything that causes division amongst you and your fellow man, even if it's hiding behind any religion or spiritual identity, anything that causes or tells you to look down upon anybody, that's ungodly. That's not of God. That's not of the light. That's not of love. That's not of peace. Anyone that tells you that I'm a highly ascended spiritual master and he needs $200 an hour to talk to you, that's not a man of God. If you have something in your heart to share with everybody, you put it out there, like how you're doing. I had my YouTube channel also for 2 years. It's hours of labor, sweat, and tears that I put into those videos, all for free, because I know ultimately someone will get a benefit out of it. Even with one person minimum, I did the right thing. I'm not preaching any hatred against whites, Jews, blacks, myself as a Muslim American living in this country. I tell people we are all one. We are all God's creatures. Even with my genetic test that I had done, I had found Native American in my ancestry. I found 2 white women I was related to that were my distant cousins. So if somebody would tell me, oh, you're born to a Pakistani Muslim family and your identity is not supposed to expand beyond that capability, then you already put me in a bubble. So, and we're all together. We're all one. We're all one human family. And that's what I tell, my white brothers and sisters in America, my black brothers and sisters in America. You are worth it. You are valuable. You have a right to a future in this country, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
And any of your leaders that come and try to preach or show up when a tragedy occurs, or try to profit off of your pain and suffering, but then they disappear after that, they tell you to hate others, those are not men and women of God. So use your own discernment and research all of these teachings of your own and come together as one human family. That was the goal of the Prophet Muhammad, to make everyone one united human family. That's the goal of Freemasonry. That's the goal of all of these religions and cultures. So do the right thing. Don't let these people guide you and your communities who
Yeah.
have done nothing for you.
Do you think that Donald Trump made it harder on Muslims in America?
Well, ultimately, Donald Trump is my own opinion. Donald Trump was a man who had served his own interest. So you have these characters. Everyone is basically an actor. They have their role to play. Some might be playing multiple roles at the same time. He already had a background in acting, just like how these other people have to play a role that he has. Now that he's no longer needed to play his role, now he's retreated into his slumber, and he'll come back out when he's needed again. So he did preach a lot of hatred and division because that was the task that he was given by the agents of chaos, to cause 4 years of upheaval, chaos, and darkness. Now you have 4 years of order. And the next 4 years will be chaos. That's order out of chaos. That's America. That's that balance between light and dark that will ultimately always exist here.
It's like a
So he, he,
pendulum
he
swinging.
exactly. He played his role. He did what he had to do, and now he's retreated into his slumber, and no one will hear from him anytime soon.
Now, is it true that if a Muslim converts to Christianity, that other Muslims will kill him? Is that
No,
true?
no, that's incorrect.
Or is
That's
that
a lot of the
another myth?
exactly. It's just like what I told you, my brother Steve. In Holy Quran, verse 49, about Surah 49, verse 10, it tells you that mankind is one brotherhood and one believers of God. And it tells you in Surah 2, verse 262, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. You do right by God, you do the right thing with each other, God will be kind to you and your family.
Yeah,
It's not, that's humans who are telling you, oh, that if you leave this religion or that religion, you're condemned to hell or you're
yeah,
condemned to death. That's not what the religion teaches. That's what the people are doing and exemplifying. And the
yeah,
people do not represent the teachings of God. Like how in the Masonic altar, you'll find a Quran, Bible, Tanakh, because they're volumes of sacred laws. And in those laws, it's telling you to love and respect one another. If any human use it as an identity to do something horrible against somebody else, he cannot do that. Even in my faith, I can marry a Christian woman. I cannot force her to convert or force her to stop her going from her church and how she wants to raise her children. I
yeah,
cannot interfere with that because the mother is given her rights and heaven lies at the feet of your mother. So we're supposed to love and respect each other. Anybody that says that you're an apostate or you're condemned or you're going to hell, and it's like what Christ said, that he who didn't sin cast the first stone.
yeah.
So we have to be better examples of what Christ, Muhammad, Solomon, Moses, peace be upon them all, have taught us to be in our impeccable characters as a
Yeah.
human beings.
Now, is it true that the first Muslims in America were brought over on slave ships? Were they slaves from Africa, the first American Muslims?
Yeah, there were some historical accounts of that, where some of the Muslims that were brought here were from African countries that were brought as slaves. That's correct,
Yeah.
and that's why you see like that seed of Islam being here has been planted way before the founding of this country. It was always here because this is a Masonic republic, and you have elements of all religious teachings that will be found here.
Yeah. So what about, I've been told, and I think this part is correct, that Muslims practice 5 different special times of prayer each day. Is that correct?
That's right. And it's funny, it all goes according to their direction of the sun. So how we look as Masons, we're supposed to look to the east for light. We pray towards the east, try to find light, try to find oneness with God. And it just tells you, be the best person that you can be in your life. Do the right thing. I might speak to you now, brother Steve. I might go to sleep. I might not wake up. That'll be the end of my life. But ultimately, when I face God, I can tell him, I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't cheat anybody. I didn't lie against anybody. I didn't try to divide and destroy the human family. With the time that you gave me, I always did the right thing as a Muslim, as a Mason, for the welfare of all peoples, not just me or mine. That's the type of world that we should strive for.
Yeah. So what else would you like people to know about Islam before we wrap it up? Would you like to correct
I would just tell
lies that
them
have been told?
I would just tell them that the definition of Islam and Muslim is one who submits to the will of God. And we love and respect all races and religions, like I pointed out with the verses from the Holy Quran that tell you, it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you believe in God and do the right thing, God will do right by you on the day of judgment and your family. No one has the right to condemn you to hell, or you're a good person. They said, oh, if you don't believe what I believe, you're not going to go where I'm going. That's division. That's ungodliness. God loves us all equally as his children and as his creation. So please do the right thing. Islam just means to submit to God. And many spiritual paths tell you surrender your ego to the divine. It's the same exact thing. When you surrender your ego and tell God, God, guide me as you will. And that's Islam. That's the definition of a Muslim. Nothing more, nothing less. Live and let live. Anything else that tells you hatred or division, just know that those that are saying that are not men and women of God. Just make a U-turn and walk the other way. Don't even hear anything they have to say.
Yeah. And also, before we wrap it up, you want to tell people about your book and where they can find it and how they can get in touch with you.
Thank you, Brother Steve. So I have a book published, The Spiritual Reflections of the Sufi Freemason, Volume 1, which is available on Amazon in both Kindle and ebook format. And also, you can reach me at Salman Sheikh 911 at gmail.com. On YouTube, you can just search my first and last name, Salman Sheikh, and my channel will pop up where I have all my YouTube videos. And I want to give a shout out to Brother Steve as well, because after I had read his book, No One Walks Alone, that's what inspired me to write my book. So he doesn't realize how many people he has helped and inspired with his writings and work as well, including what he's doing now with these YouTube videos.
Thank you, brother. And thank you again for being here with me this evening. It's always a pleasure, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
My pleasure, brother. I'm always at your disposal when needed. Just call upon me.
Thank you, brother. You have a great evening.
You too, Brother Steve.
Bye-bye.
Bye.